In June 2026, the ground under Venezuela moved twice. It was the strongest earthquake the country had seen in 125 years. In the coastal state of La Guaira, by some assessments, around 80% of the buildings came down. Thousands of people were killed. And as the dust settled, the world asked the question it always asks: how could nature do this? But hold that question, because there is something you should know first. In 2010, two earthquakes struck the Americas 6 weeks apart. One of them was roughly 500 times more powerful than the other. The powerful one killed 562 people. The weaker one killed around 230,000. Same planet, same year, same tectonic forces. Wildly different outcomes. Because an earthquake is a natural event, but a death toll is a political one. This is politics in everything. First, what happened carefully and with respect, because these are real people. A pair of powerful earthquakes struck Venezuela in late June. Reported death tolls have varied as the search continued. Al Jazeera reported more than 3,500 dead in early July. Venezuelan authorities counted over 4,300, and some assessments put the figure higher still, with tens of thousands more injured and many still missing. The United Nations put the direct physical damage to housing and infrastructure at around $37 billion. Tens of thousands were left with nowhere to go. Stadiums and sports centers became camps, dozens of them. And in La Guaira, the state hit hardest. Whole neighborhoods simply stopped standing. Now, back to that comparison, because it is the single most important thing to understand about earthquakes. On the 12th of January, 2010, a magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck Haiti. It killed at least 230,000 people. 6 weeks later, on the 27th of February, a magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck Chile. On a scale that measures these things, that is not a slightly bigger quake. It released something like 500 times more energy, and it killed 562 people. Read those two numbers again. The vastly more violent earthquake killed a tiny fraction of the people. So, what on earth is the difference? The difference is one of the most boring documents a government ever produces: a building code. After a serious earthquake in 1985, Chile wrote strict rules about how buildings must be constructed to survive shaking, and then, crucially, it made people follow them. Haiti at the time had no national building code at all, and no real system for checking whether a building was safe. Now, to be fair, other things mattered too. Haiti's epicenter sat about 10 miles from a capital city of 3 million people. Chile's was 70 miles from the nearest major city. Geography was cruel to Haiti. But engineers and disaster researchers keep coming back to the same conclusion. The biggest single factor deciding whether you live or die in an earthquake is not the magnitude. It is whether the building you are standing in was built to stay up. So, what about Venezuela? Here is where it gets painful. Because Venezuela is not Haiti in 2010. Venezuela has building codes. It updated them after an earthquake back in 1967. As one engineer quoted in the reporting put it, and this line should stop you cold: the problem in Venezuela is not the code. It is the lack of enforcement. A rule that nobody checks is not a rule. It is a suggestion, written down and filed away while the concrete gets poured anyway. And the reporting after the quake points somewhere uncomfortable. According to engineers and independent analyses cited by outlets including Reuters, decades of neglect, weak enforcement of building codes, and lax licensing practices under the governments of Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro likely made the human cost worse. Particular attention has fallen on the state-built public housing. One analysis described the history of that program as one of corruption and low-quality construction, put up in many cases without proper supervision, inspection, or adherence to the codes. And there is a detail about timing that is hard to look away from. Some of those complexes were begun in the run-up to the 2012 elections, as part of a drive to erect millions of cheap units, fast. Then add the ground itself. La Guaira, the worst-hit state, has unstable, soft soil, which amplifies shaking and makes it an especially risky place to build at all. Buildings went up there anyway, And older buildings, put up before the codes were tightened, were often never retrofitted to survive a modern quake. So stack those decisions up, one on top of another, over decades. Build fast before an election. Build cheap. Build on soft ground. Skip the inspection. Never go back and reinforce the old blocks. Each choice on its own looks like a small administrative shortcut. Together, they are a death toll, waiting patiently for the tectonic plates to do their part. Which is why, in the weeks after the earthquake, engineers publicly urged the Venezuelan government to audit its state-built housing to find out which of the buildings still standing are actually safe for the people sleeping in them tonight. And that request contains the whole tragedy in miniature, because the buildings that fell have already told us the answer. The only question left is about the ones that did not fall yet. And this is not really a story about Venezuela or Haiti or Chile. It is a story about every country, including yours. Because a building code is invisible. Enforcement is invisible. An inspector who refuses to sign off on bad concrete saves lives that nobody will ever count in a disaster that will now never happen. There is no ribbon cutting for that. No politician wins an election by pointing at a building that did not collapse. Meanwhile, corruption in construction is a delayed action weapon. The bribe is taken today. The rebar gets thinner today. And the bill comes due decades later, at 3 a.m. in about 40 seconds. You cannot legislate against an earthquake. You can absolutely legislate against a collapse. So when the ground next moves, and it will, remember what is actually being tested, not the strength of nature. Nature simply arrives. What is being tested are decisions made years earlier by people in offices far from the fault line, who inspected,
Who signed?
who was allowed to build, and where, who decided that this year's housing target mattered more than next decade's earthquake. The people we lost in Venezuela were not, in the end, victims of geology. They were the last line of a policy. And the most useful thing we can do for them is refuse to call it a natural disaster and start calling it what the engineers already call it, a preventable one. A fault line, a building code, and a signature nobody checked. Everything is political, even the ground beneath your feet. This is politics in everything. If this changed how you read the next disaster headline, subscribe and tell us in the comments. Do you know if your own building is built to code? Next time, a new arena, same game.